Okay, this one's really important. Completing the square. It's going to come up later on in another context, so we really have to make sure we understand what they mean when they say solve by completing the square. It's not difficult if you follow the process step by step. It's just really important to understand what it means, and when you hear the term completing the square, you know that this is what we're talking about. Basically what it is we're taking a normal trinomial and we're going to change it in a way that makes it contain a perfect square trinomial. The reason for that is it's a special pattern. We're going to be able to pick information out of it later and make our lives easier when we do graphing. But for now, we're just going to practice the basics of getting the method down. So what I want to do to start with is I'm going to take this term and move it to the other side of the equation. So I'll be left with x squared minus 10x on this side and just equal to negative 3 on the other side. And it seems maybe kind of strange at this point, but bear with me. What we want to do now is look at this side and ask ourselves, if we had this pattern and then another number, what would this number be in order to make this factorable into a perfect square trinomial? So what I want to know is, if I had brackets like this, what would go here to make me be able to write it like that? So this number has to be the same. What we see is that our middle term is negative 10. So in order for us to get that middle term, these two numbers would have to be the same number and add to negative 10. So the way that we get that is we take our negative 10 and we divide it by 2, which gives us negative 5. So our negative 5 goes here, which means that the little hidden perfect square is x minus 5 squared. The only thing is, I guess I could just, yeah, I'm leaving it that way for now. The only thing is we've only got x squared minus 10x. We don't have the rest of the trinomial, so then we have to say, what is the rest of the trinomial? Well, negative 5 times negative 5 would give me the rest of the trinomial, wouldn't it? I'm going to write it out, x squared minus 10x. I divided that by 2, it gave me negative 5. Now I square it, and it's going to give me plus 25. So that's what this would be if I actually FOILed it. But now that I've added the plus 25, I've got negative 3 on this side. I have to add the 25 to this side as well to keep those original equations equal. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So now I've got, this side can all be condensed to x minus 5 squared, because that's why I did it. And this side, because these are just numbers, they can be simplified. Negative 3 plus 25 gives me 22. So now I'm trying to solve, so that means x needs to be alone eventually. And that means I have to take the square root of each of these, which means I'm left with x minus 5 equals the square root of 22. Now I move the minus 5 over as a plus 5, and I'm left with x equals 5 plus or minus the square root of 22. Now my final step would be to look at that 22 and ask myself if I could reduce it in any way by making it a mixed radical, but 22 doesn't have any factors that have a perfect square root, so I'm done.